In this video, we will continue writing classes by creating the accessor and mutators. So far, we have named the class, defined all of the class and instance level variables, and created our constructors. Now, we will create one accessor and one mutator behavior per attribute. For accessors, the name is usually get followed by the attribute name. They are always public. They need to return the same data type as the attribute's data type. They usually have no parameters, and the logic is to just return the value of the instance attribute. For the mutators, the name is generally set, followed by the attribute name. They are public, the return type is usually void, and the parameter is the same data type as the attribute. The logic of the method should validate the input parameter and then set the attribute value. Now we continue writing a class to represent an instance of time. The attributes have been declared. Now we write the appropriate accessors, getters, and mutators, setters. For subgoal 7, we create one accessor and one mutator per attribute. There are 3 instance attributes, so we will need 3 getters and 3 setters. Let's start with our. The name will be getHR. Note the camel case so we can distinguish between the get and the attribute that we are getting. It is public. The return type data is the same type as the attribute. We declared our as an integer, so this method will return an integer. There are no parameters, and the logic is to simply return the value of the instance attribute, our. Here we have created the next 2, for getMin and getSec. For part B of subgoal 7, we create the mutator. We will call it setHR, again in camel case. The method is public, the return type is void, the attribute, our, is an integer, so the return type will be an integer, and the logic needs to validate the input parameter and set the attribute value. Here, we want to validate that HR is between 0 and 23 inclusive, and then assign HR to our instance attribute, our. And here we have our other 2 mutators, setMin and setSec. Now we have our UML diagram. In the third section, we have added the 3 getters and 3 setters. They are all public. The parameter data types are given, and the return data types are given. Now that we've created these methods, we can change our logic to the overloaded constructor. Remember, we had the same validation logic in the overloaded constructor. Rather than having the logic in the same place twice, we can now update the overloaded constructor to just call those setter methods. Instead of doing the individual validation in the overloaded constructor, we can just call setOur, setMin, and setSec with the appropriate parameters. Now that we've written these methods, we can see how they might be used in a driver program. We create one instance of the time type class called now, calling the default constructor. This will initialize hour, minute, and second to all have a value of 0, because that was the logic in our default constructor. We can now call the set methods to set the hour to 14, which would be 2 p.m., set the minute to be 30, and set the second to 45, indicating that now it is 2:30 and 45 seconds in the afternoon. If we wanted to retrieve those values, we could just call the getter methods.